All right, so what did I think? If you watch my other reviews, this is not going to surprise you, but I loved it. It was great. It was actually really good. Um, it's up there as a standard as what a remake should be, where it kept all of the insides of the original, but expanded on it and in a healthy way, not in a monetization way, not in a we're trying to do other spin-offs or trying to push our agenda to get you to think a certain way. None of that. None of that at all. It was just more lore, fleshing out the story, taking bits that weren't too detailed in the original and making them detailed in this time around. If I didn't know that this game was old, like a remake of an old game, I wouldn't know that it's a remake. I would have probably played through this and thought, maybe at the like framework of it was a little basic, but otherwise it was really fucking good. Um, I playing it on the hard difficulty really didn't feel all that challenged too much. There was like a couple times where I felt a little low on ammo, but I immediately was able to rectify that. So not a very difficult game, I would say. The puzzles are probably the hardest part about it, if I'm honest. And even then, some of them are kind of. It's just like, oh, wow. I'm kind of annoyed I didn't get that at first. But, like I said, really good game. Really great. Like, I had a really great time. Even though I was rushing myself through it, it's not that big of a deal. I think I still got plenty of satisfaction. As you saw, I was very detailed and I went through every place that I could. We did the side quests, we got the extra gear. Really, the only thing I think I missed was because you can get like a level 6 suit, if I'm not mistaken, and we only got to level 4 or 5. So there's definitely something I missed along the way somewhere, but not the big deal. It's, cosmetic shit, really. It's not anything story wise. We got all the story quests done. I got all the lore. Um, I really like a lot of the extra lore they put in. Like, for instance, like kind of fleshing out Isaac's background, his parents' background. Um, they went in with Mercer a lot and were able to kind of really make him the bad guy that he is. He was the bad guy in the original, but I think he was just so much better of a bad guy this time around. He was always calm and collected for the most part. Did we see him die? I remember. Oh yeah, no, I think yeah, okay. Well, technically we didn't see him really die. We saw him get grabbed with the marker and pulled down into the thing, but we never actually saw him again after that. I'll have to see exactly what happens there. But all the same, still really fucking good. The mechanics of the game, super solid. The way that the kinesis works, awesome, incredibly satisfying. Makes me feel really smart too when I'm able to conserve ammo by, like, shooting off a limb, grabbing the scythe arm, and then sending it right back to him. God, that is immensely satisfying. The little details of like Isaac's, cursing and stuff while he's stomping, the way like the like animations are when he's reloading or when he's upgrading the guns and stuff like that. Like, I really appreciated all of that as well. The music isn't something that I would say like jumped out at me. It was super fitting. Like, it was very atmospheric and it really kind of helped immerse yourself in it. A lot of the sounds in this game are stressful as fuck, but in a good way, because you never know what's gonna be a zombie monster thing, a necromorph. You never know what's just the Ishimura making Ishimura noises. Um, I like. I also actually really wanted to point out they added a lot more encounters in this game. So in the original, it was way more like I've mentioned this before. It's a little bit clunkier, a little bit slower, more methodical. This time around, they took a lot from Dead Space 2. They took the pacing, the action, like orientation. It still got like kind of uh, a a methodical like pace to it, like with the combat and everything. But the combat encounters are a lot more plentiful, a lot more hectic this time around. Like I was mentioning just a bit ago, that whole section where you're moving the marker through the colony, that was nowhere near as like drawn out and oh, why I keep yawning. That was nowhere near as drawn out, and there was nowhere near as many enemies. There was a couple puzzles and things you had to do. You had to kill a couple enemies a few times, but ultimately, it was not anywhere near as hectic as it was in the remake. That's for sure. That aside, I really appreciate it. I actually think that the continuous development, Brian Chen. Huh, I wonder if Chen was named after that guy. Interesting. Um, what was I getting on? I got distracted. The graphics. So I just recently played the original, and whereas I think the graphics for the original are still great, hold up. Like I don't necessarily judge games on their graphics too much. This game was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. The detail in the armor, like being covered in like blood and guts and stuff after a fight, all of that stuff is really well done. Like I felt myself a lot of the time just wanting to sit and like look at all of like the equipment and stuff they had up on the walls and the computers like systems. Like I was mentioning when we were exploring the bridge, how you got to go and walk around and like, what would it be like to, this was your station, you know, you had to work here the whole time, that kind of a thing. I really like to ask myself those questions and kind of put myself in the shoes of whoever is like living there in that scenario. One story beat that still doesn't sit right with me, and it's not necessarily a remake's fault, it's just the writing of the actual story, was I find it really hard to believe an entire like military ship that was aware of what could be happening with the necromorphs and everything managed to get taken out by one necromorph. The necromorph got in there and it somehow started infecting everybody. So you had a whole ship of necromorph fucking military soldiers, people that are trained to shoot, trained to use these weapons, and yet Isaac, an engineer who I believe has ex-military training, so not current, not anything active, he was able to go through the entire thing, no problem. He was able to shoot the giant monster, no problem. He was able to get fucking banged around by the tentacles, no problem. And furthermore, I'm actually a little bit curious as to what those tentacles are, because I thought it was always part of the Leviathan, but it still grabs you after the Leviathan's been yeeted out into space. So maybe the tentacles are just their own necromorph. I'm not sure. I'll have to explore that. Definitely plan on watching the movies and stuff after this too. But yeah, so, you know, there's not a lot to say, in all honesty. Like, if you like Dead Space, the original, you're gonna love this remake. If you're a fan of, like, the sci-fi horror genre in general and you've never played, this is an amazing starting point, and I would definitely encourage you to play at least Dead Space 2 after this, because it's very... There's a lot of shit that goes on, and this, though they added a lot of detail to the story and the lore with this game, there's still plenty of questions, plenty of like theories and stuff. Like, for instance, the hell's gonna happen to Isaac after this? You know, he's just floating in space, and as far as you know, like, he's probably gonna send out like a distress signal or something. But they made it a pretty clear point to mention that they're way out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, nobody comes out this far in the space. And it was even weird that a military ship was that far out. Granted, we know why they were there, but all the same, when it was brought to the attention of people who weren't aware, they're like, well, what the fuck why are they just out here on a exploration mission, blah, 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 blah. Well, there's still plenty of answers to come in the sequel. I actually really hope that this, being as well received as it is, gives us one of two, if not both things. The first thing is a true Dead Space 4 that harkens back to Dead Space 1 and 2, and they leave all that nonsense they started in 3 behind. 3 was, I haven't played it, so I can't get too critical, but I've seen a lot of it, and I know that from everybody else's reviews, it's way more action based, and they've almost completely gotten rid of the horror aspects of it. I think they need to tone it back a little bit and come back to the horror. There is story and lore written for Dead Space 4 that hasn't been released to the public. There's a lot of ideas and stuff that they had in mind they want to do. And I really pray that EA sees that single player games are worth the investment. Granted, this probably wasn't the most expensive game for them to make, since they already had the framework for a lot of it. They were able to save money on the production side of things. But I think if they buckle down and properly fund an actual Dead Space 4, it'll come to fruition. They'll make plenty of money off of it. We'll be happy because we'll get a single player game that's not monetized to hell. And I really hope they harken back to how Dead Space 1 feels, Dead Space 1 and 2, because they're a lot more sci-fi horror. There's a lot more puzzle aspect to them. It's a little bit more methodical. It's not run and gun action man, Call of Duty with zombies type thing, or space zombies this time around. With that being said, the other thing that I hope comes to fruition is they remake Dead Space 2 like this. They've already got the groundwork for it. They already saw that this went really well. Dead Space 2 was already received pretty well as it was. I think given how much positive reception that this remake had, at least remaking Dead Space 2 should be something that they could consider. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm not going to be that entitled gamer that's like, give me this, give me that. But I truly believe that with as great of a game as this remake turned out to be, that they will truly have a hard time not doing more with the Dead Space series. Whether it be a full-on Dead Space 4, or they go through and they remake 2 as well, we'll see. But I truly believe they gotta at least do something along those lines. And I'm a little bummed that Glenn's not involved with these projects anymore, because his touch was still definitely felt in this game. Knowing what I know about the production of the first game, I was really happy to see the second game, this remake, treated as lovingly as it was. It's kind of a weird word to describe a Dead Space remake, but it really was crafted with love and care. They went above and beyond with this one. I don't even think I had any real technical issues aside from a few frame rate drops here and there when shit was going really crazy and there's a lot of lighting and stuff. Some of the ragdoll effects were a little goofy, but that's ragdoll stuff for you. I mean, that you can't escape that, and half the time it was on me in the first place. I kind of forced it to happen. So that's neither here nor there. But summarize everything up, because I gotta blow my nose and I keep yawning for some reason. Dead Space Remake, excellent game. I would honestly argue that this is a 10 out of 10 game. I'm not the kind of person to put 10 out of 10 ratings on such a high pedestal. I genuinely it comes down to fun factor, detail, and technical performance. And this had it all. It had the detail I was looking for. It fleshed out things. It made me feel immersed in the world. The graphics and technical side of everything was great. Like I said, the only issue I ever had was a couple frame rate drops here and there. And it crashed once for some reason. But that's whatever. So those are the only issues I ever had. Otherwise, it worked perfectly. Even with all the kinesis stuff and everything going, worked great. And I fucking enjoyed it. I really enjoyed playing it, even though I was rushing myself so I could get ready for Hogwarts and Like a Dragon. This game was still fucking incredible. I can't wait to go watch my girlfriend play through the rest of this too, because she's right before Hammond does what he did. And I actually really want to see her reaction to that, because they changed his death quite extensively. I should have mentioned spoilers at the end, but shit, if you're here and I'm rolling credits, you should know by now that the spoilers are inevitable. But I really do like how they changed a lot of the characters from the first ones and made it a bit more impactful. They still did Kendra the same fucking way they did in the original, which is fine because fuck her. But they really tried their best to make Hammond feel a bit more emotional behind his death, because honestly, his death in the original was more funny than it was sad. He gets his fucking leg ripped off and then he gets pounded into a fucking pancake. This time around, he believes he's possibly able to save his subordinate and ends up getting killed by that said subordinate. And instead of like letting things happen, he takes them both out, and basically he goes out on his terms, which is a lot more commendable, respectable, and honestly enjoyable at the end of the day. Because yeah, like I said, it was a bit more funny in the original. So again, I kind of got off topic. We're gonna roll back. 10 out of 10 game. Honestly, this is a standard for remakes across the board. I think if any other studio decides to make any other remake of any other game, this is a really good standard to try to at least meet. They did everything they needed to do. They had all the original stuff in there. They added a little bit more that didn't feel out of place. More rooms, more loot, more enemy encounters, more lore, more details, all of that. And that is exactly how you do a remake, in my opinion. They didn't fuck with anything. They didn't change lore, really. They just added to it. And that is spectacular. It's rare that you see games come out this good nowadays. So highly recommend you go play it if you haven't already. This is definitely worth the full price, but if it's not necessarily within your budget, absolutely pick it up on a sale for sure. I think ultimately though, if you haven't played this ever before, that really steep $70 price point is actually it's worth it. Like I said, I really enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun. The combat was really, really good. I really can't get over how fucking good that kinesis felt. Like, ugh. Just being able to sever the arms off of them and then send it right back with all that, like, speed and force. That was really cool. And then the way they get, like, impaled onto the wall is just hilarious to me. But yeah. That's it for my final thoughts on the game. And, thank you for watching this on my YouTube if you are here on my YouTube. If you're on my Twitch, also thank you for watching it on my Twitch too. We're trying really hard to make more and more content across all my platforms. So leaving a like, commenting, telling me what your favorite part of the game was, or honestly anything below really helps me out. And that's one of the reasons I do this. I want to have a dialogue. I want to talk with you guys. I want to hear what your thoughts are. So please comment down below, tell me what you think. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, follow me on TikTok, because I post a lot of clips and stuff on there. And I'm also on Twitter, but that's usually where I'm just posting my nonsense and like what I'm up to day by day.